Police entered buildings involved in the Taipo blaze in search of bodies. The government held ceremony to mourn the victims of the Taipo fire. And Britain's King Charles offers his condolences to those affected by the Taipo blaze. Good evening and welcome to TVB News. The government has confirmed at least 128 deaths and 83 injuries in the catastrophic No. 5 alarm fire at Taipo's Wangfu Court. The police's Disaster Victims Identification Unit said it has already completed its search in 2 of the buildings at the affected site. This as authorities noted the identities of 44 bodies have yet to be confirmed. Charred husks are all that remain of the Wangfu Court buildings, almost destroyed by one of the city's most devastating fires. The concrete carcasses, covered in nothing more than ruined bamboo scaffolding and green netting, continue standing as a grim reminder of the more than 120 deaths. A closer look at the burnt buildings show crushed windows and even remnants of the styrofoam that allegedly sped up the spread of the flames. On the ground level, representatives from the buildings department arrived this morning to ensure the safety of the damaged structures. Wearing white protective gear, some 600 members of the police's Disaster Victims Identification Unit took part in the post-disaster effort and were searching for remains in Wangyan House and Wangtao House. Authorities have confirmed the identities of 84 bodies so far, while 44 remain unidentified. By Saturday evening, the police have yet to get in touch with 150 individuals. Meanwhile, volunteers and residents continue making their way to the housing complex, hoping to give whatever they can to relieve the pain of those who are affected or simply pay their respects to the deceased.
I mainly came here today to pay condolences to the family, to pay my respect. So mainly my main concern was to look at the pet areas. I bring some food for them, and until now I'm still, because there's a lot of support already here, so I'm still seeing what I can do.
Our team, our volunteer is here, will serve the foods, waters, clothes, everything here. But we are very sad this accident here in the Hong Konger people we are also our community is very sad about this incident. With my sister and my brother Amjad is still working with the volunteers and the government officials and Hong Kong different kind of the NGOs. They work together for that peoples. And
as you can see behind me, fire services personnel have largely concluded their rescue efforts at Wangfu Court, while the police have been clearing out the area since this morning. But we could still see residents from all across the city pouring into the area, hoping to contribute and provide humanitarian assistance to affected residents. Authorities said all affected victims in the Taipo blaze are eligible for collecting the $10,000 emergency cash subsidy. Mo Sinai reports.
Speaking to the media on Saturday afternoon, Secretary for Home and Youth Affairs Alex Mack said that 929 households have received the emergency cash subsidy of $10,000. Mack clarified who would qualify to collect the relief money.
This subsidy is for those affected residents, households living in the court during the mega fire. So no matter is a tenant or an owner, whoever living in the court during this incident, they're eligible for this cash subsidies.
Mack said that public donations to the government's relief fund have reached $1 billion. The fund will be used to support affected households in the short and long term, including with the reconstruction of their homes. Deputy Chief Secretary Chet Wing Heng asked members of the public to stop their donations to avoid waste. He said the government has set up a central resource point at Taipo Community Center. Individuals can send a WhatsApp message to 9213-2388 if they wish to donate. Momus 9, TVB News.
The Hong Kong SAR government this morning held a moment of silence outside government headquarters to mourn victims of the Taipo fire. The government will also fly its flags at half-mast for 3 days starting today. Most tonight again.
The ceremony was held in the morning at the East Wing forecourt of the government headquarters. The national anthem was played and a flag was raised first. The flag was then flown at half-mast in mourning. Chief Executive John Lee, Director of the Liaison Office of the Central People's Government in Hong Kong, Zhou Ji, Xue Qingfeng, Deputy Director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office of the Central People's Government, and Long Yong, who is in Hong Kong to assist in disaster relief work, were present. Senior officials observed 3 minutes of silence for victims of the fire. A large number of residents went to government headquarters to participate in the memorial service. Some residents expressed their condolences. The Liaison Office of the Central People's Government in Hong Kong also lowered its flag to half-mast in mourning. The leadership of the People's Liberation Army Hong Kong Garrison and representatives of the Army, Navy and Air Force lowered flags to half-mast and held a moment's silence at military camps to express their condolences to victims of the fire. Momus 9, TVB News.
Members of the public pay tribute to victims of the Tai Po fire. The Home Affairs Department has set up condolence sites in all 18 districts of Hong Kong. Most tonight again.
At Kwon Fook Estate in Tai Po, which is opposite Wong Fook Court, scene of the devastating fire, a group of Hong Kongers gathered to pay tribute to the deceased. They held white flowers and bowed 3 times in the direction of Wong Fook Court. Mourners then placed flowers on the ground alongside food offerings. Paper cranes and a card with the words "Rest in Peace" carried the mourners' condolences. This woman tried to contain her emotions while speaking to the press. "I am depressed. Thank you all," she said. A solemn atmosphere at Tai Po's Fu Han Neighborhood Community Center. Residents arrived to sign the book of condolences. This Tai Po resident, who lives near Wong Fook Court, said the fire was a pure tragedy, and she wished all the affected individuals could soon walk out of pain. A mourner said the blaze was shocking. "The only thing I can do is to pray for them," she said. Mourners also gathered at Sai Ying Pun Community Complex. The site prepared white paper flowers for residents. A woman alone with her thoughts. This man said he had friends killed in the fire. His voice broke as he became emotional. Between now and Monday, members of the public can express condolences at venues set up across the city. The deadly blaze took the life of a firefighter who was based at Sha Tin Fire Station. A tribute was held outside the station. Flowers and cards piled up on the white clothed table.
Their bravery and their courage and the sacrifice, and we wanted to remember him today. So we wanted to bring some flowers for him and for his colleagues and for his family. It's so sad, but we're lucky that at these times there are people with the bravery to save other people.
Momus 9, TVB News.
The Office for Safeguarding National Security of the Central People's Government in Hong Kong issued a statement saying that during this critical time, elements opposing China and those trying to disrupt Hong Kong are stirring up trouble and seeking opportunities to create chaos. A spokesperson said these elements have spread false information and maliciously attacked the government's relief efforts, incited social division and confrontation, and fueled resentment towards the chief executive and HKSAR government. The office firmly supports the Hong Kong SAR government in severely punishing such acts of using a disaster to disrupt Hong Kong in accordance with the law. As of this afternoon, the Fire Services Department says 3 more cats and a turtle have been rescued from the blaze. The Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, or SPCA, reported a total of 243 affected animals, with 92 taken out from the fire site, including both survivors and deceased ones. Several volunteering groups remain on site to help treat and reunite the remaining displaced pets with their owners as soon as possible. Samantha Lee spoke to them.
The merciless blaze not only trapped humans, but also vulnerable little creatures. But dozens of volunteers are here to help. Bong Chen, founder of the Turtles Inn, is going to return this little one to its owner. He says he has received more than 20 rescued turtles. Most of them are kept in a container. He will assess the turtles' health status by checking their reaction at movement, as well as the color of their eyes. For unclaimed turtles, he will disinfect them and clean their habitats, as the water may be contaminated with their waste over a few days. Meanwhile, a sign-up station has been set up near the Quang Lighthouse in Quang Phu Estate, where many families are desperate for news of their beloved pets. Mr. Feng came to wait for a miracle, hoping to be reunited with his adopted cat that he has owned for 14 years. Corey Lau is among the helpers who have come here every day since the fire broke out. He says it was heartbreaking to receive inquiries from the anxious residents, citing some sent him home camera footage that shows pets engulfed in fire. As rescue work is underway, he urges pet owners from Wanchee Court to contact them as soon as possible.
The Animal Welfare Advocacy Alliance have stated that the supplies are sufficient and expressed gratitude for medical staff, veterinarians and volunteers from all walks of life for their generosity. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Britain's King Charles has offered his condolences over the Taipo blaze. In a statement, King Charles III said he and Queen Camilla were greatly saddened by the tragedy. The British monarch said they had heard of the extraordinary courage of the emergency services and the determined spirit of the many community members who have come to their neighbors' aid. He added that Hong Kong people will remain in their prayers and hearts. And still ahead, Trump halts all asylum decisions for people on Afghan passports following deadly shooting of National Guard member. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announces a resignation of his Chief of Staff, Andriy Yermak. And Pope Leo visits Istanbul's Blue Mosque during his first visit to a Muslim place of worship. Welcome back. The Trump administration has halted all asylum decisions and paused issuing visas for people traveling to the U.S. on Afghan passports. This days after a shooting near the White House that left one U.S. National Guard member dead. Daniel tells us more.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced U.S. President Donald Trump's State Department has paused visa issuance for all individuals traveling on Afghan passports. He added the United States government has no higher priority than protecting the nation and its people. The Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, Joseph Edlow, said in a post on X that asylum decisions will be paused until the U.S. government can ensure every alien is vetted and screened to the maximum degree possible. The move came 2 days after a 29-year-old man from Afghanistan shot and killed one U.S. National Guard soldier and critically injured another near the White House. They were deployed with the West Virginia National Guard as part of Trump's crime-fighting mission in the city. Investigators are continuing to seek a motive in the shooting. The suspect, Rahmanullah Lakhanwal, worked with the CIA during the Afghanistan war. He now faces charges including first-degree murder. He applied for asylum during former U.S. President Joe Biden's administration. He was granted it this year under Trump. A U.S.-based immigration lawyer criticized the Trump administration's rhetoric on immigration in the wake of the shooting.
So the administration's measures to create these policies in response to one person's actions, it's really a form of collective punishment. That's how we see it. They are very clearly weaponizing this tragedy involving one person to build on their existing immigration agenda, which has already been restrictive, which has already led to a lot of indefinite pauses in processing.
Meanwhile, mourners gathered in Webster Springs, West Virginia for a vigil in honor of National Guard member specialist Sarah Beckstrom, one of the two National Guard members who was shot dead in Washington on Wednesday. West Virginia Senator Robbie Morris spoke at the event.
Sarah was no different, graduating high school just 2 years ago, joining the National Guard, serving her country. From the people that I've talked to, nobody is surprised that she volunteered to serve through the holidays so that others could be home with their families.
TV News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced the resignation of his powerful Chief of Staff, Andriy Yermak, who was also the country's lead negotiator in talks with the U.S. This after Yermak's residence was searched by anti-corruption investigators. Nasvi Karim with more.
Andriy Yermak would never be more than a step behind his leader, Volodymyr Zelensky. For 15 years since they met, the Ukrainian president was loyal to Yermak, promoting him to Chief of Staff in February 2020. That political bond has now been broken, with his name missing from the delegation to conduct the next round of peace talks with the US. Zelensky was forced to act after anti-corruption officers searched Yermak's residence. Zelensky knows that Russia is looking for any excuse to cast Ukraine as the problem amid tense negotiations. Zelensky said, to preserve our internal strength, there must be no reasons to be distracted by anything else except for the defense of Ukraine. I don't want anybody to be questioning Ukraine, and that's why we have today's decisions. He said he was resetting the presidential office. Two national agencies fighting corruption in Ukraine said their search targeted Yermak, who oversaw foreign affairs. They are probing a $100 million energy sector scandal involving top Ukrainian officials that has dominated domestic headlines in recent weeks. Yermak had accompanied Zelensky on every trip abroad since the start of the conflict with Russia in February 2022, and the president's trust in him has made his power appear almost untouchable. Ukrainians are largely in favor of Yermak's ousting. This man in Kiev said there is no trust in Yermak. He came from nowhere and corruption is rife at the government level. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin hosted Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Moscow. He said he was grateful to Orban for suggesting Budapest as a location for an October summit between Putin and US President Donald Trump, which was cancelled. Putin said the latest US peace proposal, in which Ukraine must give up territory, can form the foundations for future ceasefire negotiations. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
Pope Leo visited Istanbul's Blue Mosque during his first visit to a Muslim place of worship. The Catholic leader is continuing his trip in Turkey, where he's called for interfaith tolerance and Christian unity. David Garrett reports.
The bell rings for the arrival of the Pope, the Syriac Orthodox Church of Mor Ephraim welcoming Leo XIV. The leader of the Roman Catholics going inside to hold private meetings with Turkey's Christian leaders. A thrust of the trip has been what Leo says is a desire for full communion among all believers in Jesus Christ, as he carries out duties the late Pope Francis intended to do before he died earlier this year and Leo was elected. Leo praying with spiritual leaders of Orthodox Christians ahead of an expected large mass in a 30,000-seat concert venue. Coming after yesterday's trip to Iznik, the site of a 4th century gathering of early Christian leaders, where symbolically the Pope joined patriarchs from East and West to pray for unity. Leo has taken his time 6 months before embarking on his first foreign trip, following in the footsteps of his papal predecessors, the pontiff removing his shoes as a sign of respect, guided around Istanbul's iconic Blue Mosque. He observed the architecture, also known as the Sultan Ahmed Mosque. It was constructed more than 400 years ago. Leo was expected to observe a brief silent prayer, but it didn't appear he had. The Imam of the mosque invited Leo to pray, but said the Pope declined. The Vatican later saying Leo's tour was carried out in a respectful spirit of reflection and listening. While Christianity is a minority religion in predominantly Sunni Muslim Turkey, Christmas trees were lighting up church courtyards as religious figures say the Pope's visit here is significant.
It's a holy land, we say, of the apostles, so it's very important for us and because, as the Pope said today, we are a little church, so for us it's very important and give us a lot of strength.
The pontiff continuing his tour and calls for peace and tolerance in the region on what is his final full day in Turkey. David Garrett, TVB News.
The death toll from floods and landslides on Indonesia's Sumatra has risen to at least 279. Flash floods caused by monsoon rains creating devastation over wide areas across the island. Rescuers admit they are struggling to reach badly hit remote areas. Communication is almost impossible in the north of Sumatra. Several affected regions have been cut off. Thousands of displaced villagers have returned to find bodies being pulled out from heaps of mud and rock after landslips and rivers burst their banks. There are urgent calls for heavy equipment to reach possible survivors in districts of West Sumatra, but access is restricted because many roads are impassable. And that's the news. Thanks for watching.